Alright, today we're taking notes over angles in similar triangles. Make sure you have this note sheet from the front table. You should have picked it up after you turned in your quiz. Once you have this sheet, make sure you have a pencil and you're ready to take notes that match these exactly. You will submit a picture of your notes and that will be your turn in for today. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. When two or more figures are similar, then their corresponding angles, so corresponding is the word we're filling in here, are congruent or equal in measure. So what that means is that if I have angle A here, and I have the measure of it, then its corresponding angle would be right here. It's on the same part of the similar triangle. So measure of angle A is equal to measure of angle W. So if I'm looking at the measure of angle Y, this one's really easy because it's a right angle. Its corresponding angle would be angle B. So measure of angle Y is equal to measure of angle B. And finally we have angle Z is corresponding with angle C, so their measures would be equivalent or congruent. So, if measure of angle A is 27 degrees, so we measured this and it's 27 degrees, then that means that the measure of angle W is also 27 degrees. So as long as you remember that similar triangles have corresponding angles and those angles are congruent, you're golden. So let's look at example 1. If the measure of angle B is 32 degrees, which angle has the same measure? So these two figures are similar, so their angles are congruent, their corresponding angles are congruent. And it's even nicer because of the way they labeled it. So here we have angle B, and we know its measure, and its corresponding angle would be this one. So angle B1 would have the same measure because they are the corresponding angles. Okay, now let's look at example 2. So if the measure of angle L equals 88 degrees, what is the degree measure of angle C? So they let you know that these two are corresponding by the tick marks on the angles. If you notice, L has 3 lines right here, and C also has 3 lines. That's usually a key indicator if they've rotated the triangles in any way. So if measure of angle L is 88 degrees, then we know, since they're corresponding, that measure of angle C must also equal 88 degrees. Okay, now let's look at example 3. So mine isn't labeled, so let me do that really quickly. I have triangle DGF and CBA. And again, you see these lines in our angles letting us know which ones are corresponding. So it says if measure of angle D is 13, and G is 91 degrees, what is the angle measure of angle A? So if I know 13 and 91, I can figure out what angle F is. And that helps me because angle F and angle A are corresponding. So I use my knowledge of my notes from yesterday with angle relationships, and I know that 13 plus 91 plus x, our missing angle measure, equals 180. So that would be 104 plus x equals 180. I isolate my variable, and I get x equals 76 degrees. So that immediately applies to angle F, but because these two are corresponding, then I know that the measure of angle A equals 76 degrees. Finally, let's look at example 4. Let me get rid of these little lines here. Alright, for example 4, it says if measure of angle A is 100 degrees and the measure of angle B is 40 degrees, what is the measure of angle, and your notes are correct, it should be E. Measure of angle E. So we're looking for this degree. Alright, well, this just looks like a triangle that's split up, but what you actually have is two similar triangles. So let me draw them down here. You should draw them on your paper. I have my smaller triangle that is AED, and I have the larger triangle that would be ABC. Okay, so I know A is 100, and that's going to be the same for both triangles because they're corresponding, but they're also just the same angle. And I know angle B is 40. Well, what is B's corresponding angle here? Which one does it match with? It matches with angle D. So I can label that as well with 40 degrees. And I'm looking for angle E. So I've used my knowledge from yesterday. I'm going to add up the angles I know, which gives me 140, and I subtract that from the total sum of the interior angles of a triangle, and I get 40 degrees. And that would be the measure of angle E. So the measure of angle E equals 40 degrees. We'll do more practice with this and interior and exterior angle relationships on Monday. Please make sure that your notes match these exactly.